About 30 miles from the city of Aberdeen lies the Howe of Cromar, an area of relatively flat agricultural land occupying a hollow created by the surrounding hills. The most notable hill being Morven to the west at 2,858 feet. To the south lies Deeside and its principal villages of Aboyne and Ballater. The area has evidence of human settlement going back over at least 4,000 years, including stone circles, burial cairns, Bronze Age fortifications and Pictish stones. Today, the principal settlements are Logie Colston and Tarland. I'm on the Tarland Way. It follows the Tarland Burn from Tarland and flows down to the River Dee at Aboyne. At one time, it was very polluted with both agricultural waste and sewage. Now it is very clean and wildlife has returned to it. Over there is Coull Kirk, which I'm on my way to visit. That is the old manse, but it's not the entrance for the church. It's now a private house. The track for the church is a little bit further on. The original church was built here in the 7th century by Saint Nathalan, who brought Christianity to the area. This kirk was built in 1790 and restored in 1860. Nathalan was born in Tullach, not far from here. He was a wealthy landowner, eventually became a bishop. There is a story that after a bad harvest, when his crops were destroyed by rain, Nathalan had a tantrum and swore at God for his misfortune. He immediately regretted his sin. After all, he was a bishop. As a penance, he padlocked his arm to his leg and threw the key into the River Dee. To complete his penance, still with his arm padlocked to his leg, he walked to Rome to ask for forgiveness. When he arrived, he bought a fish for his supper. To his surprise, when he gutted the fish, he found a key, the key, which he had thrown into the River Dee. Of course, it unlocked the padlock. It was a miracle. In fact, on the River Dee today, there's a salmon pool which is called the Key Pool. As you can see, it's quite plain inside. This is typical of a Scottish country kirk. These glass windows are opaque. This prevents distraction from the views outside. These beautiful paraffin lamps are only lit occasionally. For the last evening service in the summer and at the late afternoon carol service at Christmas time. This stained glass window at the side commemorates someone who died in the Second World War. The stained glass window at the top commemorates several people who died during the First World War. The two stained glass windows on either side are a tribute to a minister who served the parish for 45 years. The pews at either side of the communion table are for the elders who assist during the service of the communion. This gable end dates from the 17th century, and it and the birdcage belfry were incorporated into the new church in 1796. The Church of Scotland website explains that Coull Kirk is retained as a place of worship for the summer months only, when the weather is warmer and the days are longer. The building has no mains electricity supply to provide heating and light. In fact, the interior of Coull Kirk is lit by oil and gas lamps, which give the building little more than a warm glow. This is one of the oldest gravestones in the kirkyard. It dates back to 1751. It belongs to James Middleton and his family. It has signs of mortality, the hourglass and the skull and crossbones. This little building is really interesting. At first sight, it looks like a shed where caretakers might take their tools, but it's far too substantial for that. If you look closely, you will see it is built into the bank. Large, heavy blocks of granite have also been used in its construction. It would have been nearly impossible to break in to steal anything stored inside. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, grave robbing was a lucrative trade. Demand for fresh corpses was enormous. These were sold for anatomy study, and this building was designed to prevent that happening. When someone died, the procedure was to store the body in this building for about 6 weeks to allow it to putrefy and make it unusable for dissection. It's called a mort house, and these are quite common in northeast Scotland. According to Christian doctrine at the time, resurrection after death and entry into the afterlife required the body of the deceased to be whole at burial, so that a person could enter the kingdom of heaven for eternal life, complete in body and soul. In the early 19th century, body snatching was such a lucrative trade that devising methods to prevent the taking of fresh corpses became essential. Until the Anatomy Act of 1832, the law of theft only applied to property, and a deceased was not defined as property. Body snatchers were therefore careful to avoid taking any other items from the grave to avoid falling on the wrong side of the law. Items like rings and clothing were left behind. After the Anatomy Act of 1832, the need to take these preventative measures were no longer required, and the mort house ceased to be used for its original macabre purpose.